everyone, my name is Ashley and welcome to my channel, Mothering by Grace. For today's video, I am going to be sharing things that we do not do in our homeschool. This video is part of a collaboration with a bunch of other wonderful homeschool moms. It is part of a playlist. It will be linked in the description. This collaboration was hosted by Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool and Davine from Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. So definitely make sure that you check out the playlist below and go and check out all of the videos on this topic of things that we don't do in our homeschool. So let's get into the video. So I've only listed 5 things that I don't do because that is kind of what I could come up with. So I'm just going to list these things. There is no like order or anything. Obviously, they're just kind of random. But anyways, so the first thing I want to mention is that we do not start our homeschool at the exact same time every single morning. I kind of, in some ways, wish that we could, but I think for us, it just wouldn't be practical. For example, my toddler still kind of wakes up some nights, and that definitely interferes with what time I'm able to get up. Usually we do start our homeschool around 10:30. Sometimes we start it earlier at like 9. Or like 9:30 or even 11 some days. It just depends on the day. So that is something we don't do in our homeschool, is have like a consistent start time every single day. It definitely varies depending on the season that we are in. So yeah, that is just the first thing, is we do not start school at the same time every day. And although I do wish it were different, in some ways I do appreciate the flexibility of homeschooling for that reason, that if I can't start at exactly 9 a.m., that's fine. We don't have to throw away the whole day. We can still start at 10:30 or 11, or even do school in the afternoon. Whatever works best for us is what we are able to do. So that is the first thing we don't do in our homeschool. Another thing we don't do in our homeschool is work on the same subject every single day. We do have certain things we work on every single day. Like if we're reading a read aloud, we are probably going to read that every day of the week. But sometimes we may decide to switch it up and read from one of our other books. Or if it depends, if we don't wake up, we may not even get to our read aloud at all that day. Although I really do try to, because it is something that is important to me, and just I really enjoy that time with my kids. But yeah, we do not work on the same subjects every single day. We don't work on science every single day. We don't do history every single day. We typically try to do like language arts and math and like writing every single day, but again, it just depends on the day. So yeah, we don't do the same subject every single day. Another thing we don't do in our homeschool is a homeschool co-op. To be honest, it's like we don't have the option to have a homeschool co-op. I don't believe that anyone in my area has started one. It's definitely something I've thought about doing, if I should start one, but at the same time, I really don't personally feel like I like the idea of like having to determine like everybody working on the same thing. Like, I don't know, like it's just not really for me. I would rather have the freedom to just choose my own curriculum and do what works best for us. And I just don't want to be restricted in that way, where we would have to like comply to what someone else has like decided is like the curriculum in the co-op. And yeah, it's just not really for me. I would love a homeschool meetup group. There are a few homeschoolers that we do meet up with, but there's no like formal homeschool meetup, which I'm actually considering starting one myself. And I had tried a few years back, but I did find it was kind of hard to start up just because everybody has different routines and things like that. But that is something that I would love, is to have like a strong homeschool meetup group. I think that would be such a blessing, but I personally would not really care for like a co-op. So yeah, that is something we do not do in our homeschool. Something that we also do not do in our homeschool is we do not have a designated homeschool room, or even really a homeschool space We do have like our things organized in our living room for our homeschool, like in terms of our books and everything. Mostly we actually use the Amazon homeschool carts to organize our curriculum and things. We actually rent an apartment, and so we do not have like loads of extra space for a homeschool room. So we just do our homeschool at the kitchen table, at the living room. I've let my kids work in their bedrooms at times, wherever. It just depends on the day, even outside. So we do not have a designated homeschool room in our homeschool. I know a lot of people, when they start homeschooling, that can intimidate them, like, oh, I don't have space for this. But I just want to encourage you that if you don't have a homeschool room, you can definitely still homeschool. You can literally keep your homeschool stuff anywhere. We actually have some of our games in a counter over our refrigerator that we do not use for anything else except like arts and crafts and games. So you definitely can still homeschool if you don't have a designated room, although I think homeschool rooms are wonderful, and I would definitely maybe love to have one in the future, but it is not something that I really worry about, and we are fine just doing it at the kitchen table. I feel like if we had a homeschool room, we'd probably end up doing it at the kitchen table anyways. So yeah, that is something we don't do in our homeschool, is have a designated homeschool room. The last thing I want to mention that we do not do in our homeschool is we do not do homeschool funding. So I mentioned this because for a few different reasons. The first one being, in Ontario, there is no homeschool funding, and I do feel we make up for it by having flexible homeschool laws. In Ontario, there is very good homeschool laws, and it is very easy to homeschool your children. You do not have to jump through hoops. You do not have to write yearly letters to anyone. You do not have to meet up with an educator. You do not have to follow any sort of guideline. Literally, you can do whatever you want, pretty much, within reason. Like, obviously, if you weren't providing your children a sufficient education and somebody were to report you to like social services or something, they may have an issue with that. However, it is very flexible where we live, and I'm grateful for that. So I do feel that flexibility kind of is maybe the reason we don't have any sort of homeschool funding. It's kind of like, if you want to do it your way, you're on your own. But anyways, we do have once in a while, especially since COVID, they have released a few one-time payments, which I have applied for and I have received those. However, it's not like something consistent, or you don't have to like meet up with an educator in order to obtain the funding. And I just want to say, if we had funding here that did require me to meet up with like an educator or something, I personally think that I would refuse that, because I just think homeschool is about freedom of choice, and I just feel like I wonder how that may impact our freedom in the way that we want to educate our children if we did have to meet up with like a government official. That's just something I think about, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I do appreciate the way things are in Ontario currently, and I'm completely fine paying for my own homeschool curriculum in order to keep things the way they are, I guess. So yeah, we do not do homeschool funding in our homeschool other than these like few one-time payments. These were actually like COVID, I don't know, basically they were just, anyone could apply from Ontario for this like school funding to purchase like any sort of educational materials, and that was to like offset the cost of like COVID, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, I did apply for those and receive them, but we do not have like the typical like, oh, you get $1,000 a year, you know, you just have to like meet up with an educator. We don't have that at all where I live personally, so we do not do funding at all. That is everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed learning of these 5 things that we don't do in our homeschool definitely make sure that you check out the playlist below so you can see what all of these other homeschool parents do not do in their homeschool. I feel like these videos can be encouraging because sometimes I feel like we can get into this mindset like I need to be doing that, I need to do that, I need to do that, or I'm not a real homeschooler. But I think these videos are quite eye-opening to see that not everybody does all of the things, and personally I just find a lot of encouragement in these videos. So definitely go and check out the playlist below so you could go and learn about what all these other moms do not do in their homeschool. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.